My name is Kala, Arvind Kala. Mr. Modi's government thinks of this uniform civil code in a very cavalier fashion, as if it's something easily doable. In reality, the issue is so tangled that it'll require decades of work and, top legal brains. It's like, think of a ball of wool and think of 10,000 knots in it. Now, untangling every bit, every knot, it's like this. Now, let me give you an example. In the Hindu Succession Act, for instance, there's a Hindu man and there's a Hindu wife. They have no children. The man dies. You know who his property goes to? Who? His father. Now his wife dies. You know who her property will go to? Her father-in-law, not to her own father. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. Now you think of the Muslim inheritance laws. If a Muslim man dies intestate without leaving a will, his wife gets only 1/8 of the property. So, for ease of calculation, suppose that Muslim man who dies intestate has 100 lakhs to bequeath. Now, the wife gets only 1/8. No, the son gets 2/3 of it. So 66 lakhs goes to him. The wife gets 1/8, which is 12 lakhs. That makes it 78 lakhs. Now the three daughters, now that rest 22 lakhs will be split equally among them. Now, isn't it very iniquitous? I mean, just logic demands that a person who dies intestate, all his money should devolve on his wife, who will bequeath it to her children when her time goes to go up. Now, think of the Christian Marriage Act, for instance. Christian Marriage Act formed in 1872 by the British, incidentally. Now, in that the only grounds for divorce are adultery or insanity. So many times a husband Christian couple, both married under the Christian Marriage Act, one of them has to act insane. So in court, she may start to prove her insanity, or he may admit that falsely that he's been sleeping around with somebody, and probably get a witness also, a woman who'll agree that he'll say yes, I slept with them, and this kind of thing. Now look at the Parsis. Their act is a personal act, is also 1836, around 84 years ago. Now if a Parsi woman marries a non-Parsi, she loses her Parsi status, meaning she is no longer a Parsi. But if a Parsi man marries a non-Parsi, he doesn't lose his religion. Now, constitutionally, one of the fundamental rights is right to equality before the law. But that's not how it works among Parsis, for instance. A Parsi woman who dies cannot be, her remains cannot be taken to the Tower of Silence, where vultures, where she will want to be picked up apart by vultures. But the Parsi man, yes, he will he'll go to the Tower of Silence and rest content. So it's like that, all kinds of ridiculous things. Now, for instance, in India, what happens is, the usual, the conventional logic is that polygamy is practiced by Muslims and not by Hindus. The reality on the ground is that there are not tens of thousands, probably lakhs of Hindus with a second wife. I'll tell you how it works. A 21-year-old laborer from Bihar goes to Bangalore for work. He's married. He's married. His wife is in the village. He's a 21-year-old guy. He goes to Bangalore, gets work, develops a relationship with some female there, a laborer woman or whatever, and she starts living with him. He produces a kid from her also. And maybe 5 years, 8 years, they live as husband and wife without the first wife knowing it. And one day he brings the wife to his home in Bangalore, and she discovers that the fellow is living with another woman. So in effect, he's engaged in polygamy, except that he hasn't taken those rights around a fire. as Hindu this thing demands, marriage ceremony demands. But he lives as husband, and there's no law against keeping a woman that way as a girlfriend or whatever. And he hasn't married her, and siring a child from another woman is not a crime anyway. I know of a very wealthy, highly qualified technocrat who probably gets a crore or something in a year minimum. Now he and his wife broke apart, etc. And she wouldn't give him a divorce. She wouldn't give him a divorce because she was asking for too much money. So he did something very cool. He found a girlfriend who was willing to be his wife, not quote unquote, not legally, but live with him as his wife. And sure enough, they had a son. They had a son who they put. No school will deny admission to a kid whose mother says that she doesn't know who the father is because she slept around with a dozen men and she doesn't know who the father is. Everything just happens on the ground. And in Hindu inheritance laws also, it's ridiculous. So a man dies intestate without leaving a will, and now his wife, his property and his money is divided equally between his wife and his four children. Say he has four children, so imagine the wife getting only 20% of that man's, this is logic suggests. So what, there is a guy to fix all these things in the Parsi, in the Christian, in the Muslim. There should be reforms within the thing, as Faizan Mustafa. Now, there is a man who knows, Faizan Mustafa, a constitutional scholar, and his erudition about personal laws and how they work, his erudition is just staggering. So these are the things to reform first within each personal law. Reform the Hindu one, then reform the Parsi one, reform the Muslim one, etc., to make it equitable. And then you can have a uniform legal code. Here, what will they do? They'll form a committee of law secretary, etc., OST and deputy secretary and under secretary, and they'll put their brains together. They have no idea, no clue, or they'll appoint some lawyers, etc. You need top legal brains, yeah. Chaps absolutely on top. Chaps who charge bloody lakhs for every day for a consultation. People like Kapil Sibal and Salve and all these guys, Dushyant Dubey, Abhishek Singhvi. Top legal, you got to pay them top dollars, which is worth it. So Mr. Modi may think that this is very easy to untangle. No way is it easy. It's very, very complicated. And how are you going to do it? I mean, particularly in Muslim law, whatever, chap dies intestate. His brother has a stake. His father, his grandfather, his grandson, his half brother from the same father, from his son, etc. Very, very tangled. If you look at that, your brain will spin. Is very, very difficult, and I speak from meager knowledge, but I know all these personal laws need to be need common sense. You have to apply your mind, and legal brains are needed, not these bureaucrats who know nothing. So that's my take, and I don't know. It's just not doable the way, I mean, they go about it. Yes, we'll have a uniform. What is the work being done? I have no idea. You read the succession laws, etc. It's bloody crazy, absolutely crazy. Well, friends, this is a good video, and please forward it to everybody. And see you later, alligator.